The guys are catching like massive lake trout on like a tin can and a hook.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't even got hundreds of dollars in flies, and these guys are catching just like 8-pound fish on a piece of scrap metal.
Welcome to Guys Fishing Weekly. We don't just fish, we hug.
What's up, buddy?
What's good, Eddie?
How are you, man?
I am doing well, brother. Doing well.
Doing well.
Yes. Doing okay. We have people in different places. Everybody's doing fine. Getting back into the swing of school. Yeah, it's good. They are, not me, of course.
Right.
Although this week I was back at my old school. I did sub a
Yeah.
day, and it was.
How did it feel?
It was good. It was fun to walk in. I was like a rock star. Kids were like, "Mr. Auger!" Yeah, so that was kind of fun. And then I got to drop those keys off in the office at the end of the day and be like, "See ya." It was super easy. It was good.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. So adjusting to this new role of myself and my purpose.
Get that teacher fix.
Yeah. How you been, bro?
I've been well. You know, football season is back.
Yes.
So I get excited about this time of year. Watching a little college football. The Buffs played last night and won, and so we're underway there. Who knows what will have happened by the time this airs? But for now, feeling excited that football's back in order.
Right. We'll just say a W. We'll put that in the win column.
Yep. Take the win.
Yep.
So
we will take it.
Yeah. So football's back.
We do love football, don't we? Yes.
It's cooling off a little bit. Getting to that my favorite time of the year, fall, baby.
Yeah. My wife is the same thing. She loves fall. But there's really good fishing now. Now is the time that I need to spend more time out on the water.
Definitely.
It's really good fishing now. So this is the time to get out and do it.
For sure.
Super stoked. Yeah. We need to get more days on the river. So Ed, let's talk about celebrations, shall we?
We shall.
What are you celebrating, man?
Now that summer has ticked down to the end, I finally figured out my mosquito problem, I think. And so I've been able to spend time outside, and so I'm celebrating my reclaimed backyard.
Nice.
Yes.
Do tell us, how does one solve the mosquito problem in the Midwest? Because I know it's a lot bigger out there than it is here.
Dude, I've tried a ton of stuff, I feel like. I've sprayed my yard with the bug spray stuff that you spray on your hose. I've hired mosquito companies. I won't even use their name because they were shameful in how poorly they worked. I've fixed drainages. I've, cleaned out gutters. I've done it all. I'm like, there's got to be no standing water. Why are there still a bajillion mosquitoes? And I finally figured out, I saw something about a product called mosquito dunks, and they're like a little donut of a chemical that is commonly found in soil. And so it's not harmful to anything but mosquitoes in the larva stage. And so you put it in a bucket of water, throw some grass clippings in. Mosquitoes are attracted to the carbon dioxide output of the decomposing grass and whatever. And so that creates like a hotbed for them to go lay their babies in. And then the chemical that gets in the water then kills all the larvae at the larva stage, and the mosquitoes don't really reproduce. And they said it was going to take about 2 weeks. After about a week, I really noticed no bites, which is crazy. You could go outside for 5 minutes and come back with 10 bites easy. Right. So
That's
complete
substantial.
complete change. And so
That's
put a few
great,
of those
dude.
around, the yard, and it's
Right.
awesome.
And you're good to go. Wow.
Good to go.
So you cut it at the source.
I guess
Yeah, right. At the larva stage, get them before they hatch.
it's just wild. It's kind of crazy to see that work.
Right. Right.
Just like flip of a switch in a way. So yeah, awesome.
Nice. Congrats on that. Now you can use your backyard a lot more.
Heck yeah.
Excellent.
So what are you celebrating?
I am celebrating learning. Um, I'll explain. Yeah, learning. I feel like I've gotten much better at technology with what we're doing. Um, and I'm learning little tidbits of things with technology, which has always been a struggle for me. So, that feels good to learn to be able to be productive and helpful in what we're doing. And so those every little bit that I'm doing each day that I get kind of better at or I get a handle on, you learn a new trick about a platform or something that makes it simpler to work in. Just all those little things that the more I do, the more I'm getting proficient at, and so that makes me feel good. Um, and it's nothing, groundbreaking, but just those little games along the way, I think, are pretty good. I've replaced a couple things on cars that are new that I've learned how to do, and so in different realms, that's kind of happening for me, and it feels
Nice.
it feels awesome. Yeah. So I'm celebrating learning, man. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. Just
Yeah.
little tidbits here and there.
I was I was gonna celebrate you one of these days and say you have been learning some good stuff, helping out with different things around the GFW shop,
Right.
and
Right.
helping out with stuff. So, um, ah, it's awesome. I don't hear it coming out of your mouth as much as it used to that you suck at technology. So, um,
Right. Yeah. I'm
maybe
getting
it's
better.
that mindset shift you've had with that, I guess.
I actually had a friend of mine who knows my pain of technology. I met up with her and she was like, I can't believe like you're learning technology. I was like, yeah, I am. So yeah, she was impressed too. So it happened.
It's awesome,
Um,
man.
yeah, 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 yeah. How about navigation? What you navigating?
I am navigating. This is a long, ongoing navigation, but you know, every every day,
Mine is too.
you you got to keep navigating it. But I live in my head too much, and slows me down. I overthink things. I criticize myself for hours on end after anything that I do or whatever, and so trying to learn to like get out of that space and not be so hard on myself and things along those lines.
Good. That's a good navigation, dude. Yeah, we're our own worst critics, aren't we?
For
Um,
sure.
yeah, to the point of we can relentlessly beat ourselves up. So that is an ongoing navigation, and a good one to pay attention to in providing grace for yourself. Um, I am also, I think, navigating something that takes it's ongoing. It's a constant navigation, and that is the navigation of my elderly parents, my aging parents. My mom had an episode where she passed out this week, and I've been, just talking with my dad, and everything's fine. She's good, but those things start to creep into your life at a little, I guess, more regular clip, and
Yeah.
so there's distance between us. They aren't here. So that navigation is ongoing and seemingly becoming more and more. So yeah, just trying to help, my dad and my mom age gracefully in that way is you know, it's a challenge. But we're learning about it together and they're doing fine. So they're making it. So yeah.
Yeah, that is a challenge. I'm
Yeah.
sorry to hear that
Yeah.
you're dealing with some of
Nah,
that
that's good.
stuff.
It's good. It's just the reality of the situation, right? It's gonna happen. So, yeah. So we're navigating that everyday life stuff, bro. So Eddie, who we talking to today?
We're talking with Grant Powell of Temperance and Penn.
Great conversation, great dude.
Absolutely. He's a father, angler, and woodworker up in Minnesota.
Minnesota, dude. I got some ties up there, some experience up there. My
Yeah.
wife's from Minnesota.
Yeah, he's a blast of a guy to talk to. We are covering topics including the origin story of his woodworking business, just getting started and learning as you go, being a new dad, downplaying our personal problems, and of course, fishing up in Minnesota.
Nice.
Let's get into it.
Let's do it, bro.
Hey Grant, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great, man. Welcome to the show. It's good to have you here.
Yeah, it's great to be here. I appreciate you guys inviting me on and super excited to chat.
Us as well. Why don't you start off by giving us a little bit of a background on yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Grant Powell, here in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I am a full-time dad, part-time small business owner, Temperance and Penn, and yeah, just taking life on as it comes.
Good. Grant, one thing that when we kind of connected on Instagram, the name of your company stood out to me, Temperance and
Yeah,
Penn.
yeah, yeah.
Where does that come from? That was what intrigued me the most, probably, about it.
Yeah. So the Temperance River is up in northern Minnesota near Lake Superior in the Arrowhead region. I grew up going up there with my dad and family and just absolutely love it up there. We actually have some property up there now. So it's kind of this place of adventure and like really where the love of the outdoors, came to be. And then Penn Avenue is actually where we live. We live on Penn Avenue here in Minneapolis. So it's kind of this blend of home and adventure and being away.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's good stuff. And what exactly are you creating in your small business? What are the things that you're making there and pushing out?
Yeah, so really it's just kind of evolving, and right now where we are is really say we. It's just me. I specialize in woodworking, and a lot of what I am currently selling and producing are, tools to help protect gear and organize gear. I have some fly tying tool caddies. Actually have one right here. So really to organize your gear, they're all handmade, utilized sustainably sourced wood and lumber. Some of them are from actually Parks and Rec, where they're cutting down trees that are either dying or are invasive and trying to reuse those materials as much as possible. And really, where this came about is especially in fly fishing, we have a lot of this high end gear. It's, carbon fiber, lightweight. And I think that's great. It has its place. I also think, you look at old fences out in the country and those have been there for decades. Like, not everything needs to be, this high end, space aluminum or carbon fiber. So that's kind of where I've taken my craftsmanship and putting it towards these, rod holders, fly tool caddies, etc.
That's awesome. The stuff on your site's pretty awesome, and it seems like you keep growing and having more and more accessories to do
Yeah.
different things in the outdoors, whether it's fly fishing or mountain biking or
Yep.
I think I saw recently on your socials that you're always coming up with new ideas. Now you found something in the scrap pile, and now you got
Yep.
waiter hangers. So pretty nifty.
It's a little bit of a problem sometimes, I think. I'm always like, "Oh, that's cool," and it's like, "Hey, you got some orders for the stuff you already are selling, maybe focus on that a little bit," but, it's just a balance, trying to figure that out, and it's fun seeing the reactions that people have, or they're like, "I don't know, man. I'm not really seeing it."
The creative mind, dude. You got to let that thing grow. You
Yeah,
gotta
no,
come up with those, right?
yeah, it's been a great outlet, and I've really enjoyed doing it. And I really have to, say thanks to like my wife and my family for being supportive as I've gone through this journey. And I have a friend who actually really pushed me. He's just like, just start making stuff and selling it. Like you don't know where it's going to go unless you start, and just fail fast and keep on going. Like, you seem to like building, so the worst thing that happens is it's an outlet for you.
Right. And that's so important. We've struggled with some of that stuff too, in terms of getting started. And, we knew nothing about podcasting. We still are, noobs at doing this. And like,
Yeah,
you just kind of learn as you go and not put those pressures on yourself of I have to be perfect in order to get started. And it's such an important message, I think, for young people and, well, for anybody really, even at
yeah,
my age, to know, like, just start doing stuff that you find joy in and see where it goes and
exactly.
see what happens, and being vulnerable to put yourself out there. Have you always had like that creative side to you? Like, does that go back to like when you were a young kid,
Hmm.
that creative piece?
Oh yeah, I think looking back, my dad was always kind of remodeling the house or building stuff, like furniture, and like I loved helping him out. I also was super into like Legos and model airplanes and always just trying new things. So, at one point I was going to be an engineer. I just quantitative methods in computer science. I just couldn't cut it, and it's like, who's going to ask me to build a bridge or something like that when I like failed out of some of those courses.
That's good. We have to discover our limitations, right? We
Right,
got to be
right.
okay with,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Failure is a big part of learning what you love. Yeah,
yeah,
definitely. When it comes to math, that's not my strong suit either. I'm just like, yeah,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah, and then you get to this, like, conceptual math where you're like, "I'm solving for letters?" I'm like,
What?
"I don't know. I That just is not working for me."
That's awesome.
I know before the show we were talking about kind of your upbringing and your dad and how he was a super handyman and
Mhm.
had his own original YouTube with all of the magazines and stuff like that. What kind of inspiration did he have in your life and your creative endeavors?
Yeah, I mean, as we were talking about it, I go to YouTube if something's broke in the house and I fix it, but I mean, he didn't have any of that. He had, like, a stack of Handymans that he would go read through if there's a problem, but it was just very cool to watch him problem solve and figure out how to make things work, as he was remodeling. Or I remember you build, like, I think he finished the basement one time and it was fairly standard, but he's really into music and he's like, the one thing I want is like internally routed chords so I can like set up a PA system. And I was like, where do you even start with that? Like, how do you know what gauge wire? I didn't say this when I was like 6 years old, but like, how do you know the wires? What is going to be a wall adapter? Like, all this stuff that I now look at and like, it's just amazing that he was able to do that. And he still is, as we're building some property up north. And yeah, it's just been very inspirational and really encouraged me to kind of just take things on as they come. If there's a problem, like, probably can figure out how to solve it myself. And if not, worst case scenario, like, a lot of great places online that can help out.
Right, right.
Hmm.
Um, Now you've mentioned that you are a new dad.
Yep.
Um, and so how has kind of some of that has it that advice, those things that you've learned from your dad about taking things head on,
Hmm.
certainly that comes into being a new dad as well. How has
Yeah.
that stuff kind of helped you out there?
I think the biggest thing is just being there. I mean, our daughter's 6 months old, so a lot of it is just like keeping the pet rock alive sort of face. Um, but as she's
Yes.
growing, like, being there to support, and she's crawling around, and I am trying to balance this, like, I don't want to be the helicopter parent of like, oh my gosh, don't go there, or don't, you're gonna fall. But letting her tip over on the carpet, like, I'm not trying to let her smack her head like super hard, but if she like kind of rolls over and is like, whoa, what's that? Being there, like, yeah, well, like, that's just a new thing for her. And experiencing all these different things with her has been truly amazing. And I think one of the big things for both my wife and I is like, watching her experience all these new things, like she was like, she was looking at her hands for the first time, like, whoa, like it was like some stoner like was like, whoa, these are hands, and she was looking at him for like a half hour, and it was just amazing to watch her experience these new things. And like life slows down a lot, and I love it. We were at a gas station the other day, a pit stop on the road trip, and I was, waiting there with our daughter, and there was, those little smoothie or like machines that spin around at the
Yeah.
gas station.
Mm-hmm.
She was in awe of it. It was one of those things where you walk by them like 1,000 times, and you're like, eh. And she was just like, whoa. And I was just there kind of holding it, like, yeah, that's, making these, drinks that people enjoy. And like, she probably doesn't understand it, but
Right.
it's just
Right.
those little things that you start to enjoy and like kind of relive again as a kid.
For sure. I have a 3.5-year-old, and I talk about just the wonder that she has, and we'll be driving her home from school, and the other day she was like, look at that cloud. And it could have been any cloud in the sky. I
Yeah.
mean, there was probably 50 to 100 little clouds in the sky. I couldn't have picked it out. But she was so amazed by one cloud and was like, do you see that cloud, Dad? Do you see that cloud? Like, that is so cool. And I'm just like, uh, that is, and you have to bring yourself back to the childhood of like, of course, I'm, 36 years old. I've seen a lot
Yep.
of clouds, but like bringing yourself back to play with them and be like, that really is the coolest cloud. That
Yeah.
ability to be in the moment, be present, and like experience the world the way they
Hmm.
do is a skill I think we all have to get back to at some point in life as you get
Yep.
older. It kind of gets sucked out of you, and it's kids are a great reminder
Hmm.
for those little things for sure.
The
Yeah.
wonderment of discovery, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Yeah. I'm really into music as well. So it's like the first time you hear some of those iconic songs, you're like, you get chills and it's an earworm. You listen to it over and over again. I imagine some of that stuff is like, whoa, just breathtaking. And you just want to like take it all in as much as you can.
For
Right.
sure.
What's your favorite band?
It's
Oh
going
boy.
all over. You're gonna
Depends
laugh
on your
'cause
mood, right?
it
It totally
depends.
does.
It depends on my mood, and you're gonna laugh because it's like, could you pick a more like classic rock American band? But the Eagles right now,
There you go. Boom. No, I will never laugh at that.
right?
Yeah.
I just remember growing up, and my dad just loved the Eagles and still does.
My dad does too.
Yeah, he, was always playing it on the guitar. I remember one night just watching, like, I think it was like the Eagles, reunion concert on
Yeah.
TV.
Yeah.
And
When
then,
hell freezes over.
yep,
Yep.
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 And then they came to town in November. And my wife, at the time was like 7 months pregnant. So, we went there, with my parents and actually her brother and, soon to be sister-in-law. And, um, it was just the most amazing concert. Just, it's just instruments and their vocals. There's not a lot of frills there. And I just have a newfound respect for the Eagles again.
Boom.
Um,
Good work.
yep.
Good work.
Yep.
Nice.
And now when our daughter gets fussy, I throw on like Peaceful Easy Feeling, and she's like, you know,
Good.
yep, yep. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
Your parenting skills are awesome, dude. That's yeah, you're doing just fine.
Thank you. Just see, it's just getting bigger. My head's getting
That's right.
Yeah.
bigger.
Getting her to chill with the
Yeah.
Eagles. Good work,
Yeah,
dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And again, it's just about experiencing all those new things and like letting her kind of take you on the journey too.
Right.
Try and stay in the zone because it does get a little harder. I will say the pet rock stage does move on to them trying to be and do everything that you don't want them to do. So
I'm
you'll have
afraid
to, Yeah.
for when she gets sassy and like will cut with her words, you know, like,
Oh,
yeah, I'm a
yes.
little nervous. I'll be like, that kind of hurt.
Yeah. My daughter, my wife and I joke about her being, we call her a three-nager. And she will say
Oh yeah,
things that you're just like, oh, that it does. They cuts. It's incredible how deep it cuts, and you're like, she doesn't know what it means, but
right.
her big phrases right now that she picked up at school is, "We're not best friends," or I don't want to be your best friend anymore. And you're just like, oh, what do you mean? At this point, it's like, shut up. Like, but when she
Yeah.
first was saying it, you're like, oh man, you don't want to be my best friend anymore.
You just
It's like visceral feeling. It's crazy.
right. You're just getting removed from her MySpace top 10 or whatever.
For sure. Yeah. She,
Dating
yeah.
myself there for sure.
Tom is way better friends with her than me. So
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that's amazing.
At the end of the day, you can always be like, okay, well, how are you going to eat dinner tonight?
Savage. But yeah, true.
she'll hunger strike though.
Yeah.
They've got skills, man.
Strong-willed.
That's playing checkers. She's gonna be playing chess. She'll be like,
They are. Well,
Right.
you kind of forget about it as you get older. I feel like they have one job, and that one job is to get what they want, and so they are just like tactical in every move
yep,
that they make. And so
yep,
you're like, you've obviously got bills and jobs and you know everything going on in life. Their only job is like to get what they want out of you at that moment in time, and
yeah,
they are very tactically good at achieving that. So
yep.
it's wild.
Yeah, I had we were with some friends and their son was really good at avoiding bedtime and we're like, what? No, that it
Yeah.
can't be that. And we like we're over there for dinner and like reading stories and all of a sudden he has like before I knew it, we were like in his little like tent in his room playing with stuffed animals and dad was like, See, he just played you. You are somehow
Yeah.
avoiding bedtime, playing with stuffed animals. He got you." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, you're right. That little stinker just somehow played me."
Played you like a drum.
This will be my last daughter story. But she, like, another tactic she has right now is delaying going to school. She has a bedtime delay too, but now she knows that if she says she has to go to the bathroom on the way to school, like, we're either turning around or like stopping somewhere on the way. So I'll be like, "Do you need to go to the bathroom?" "No, I don't need to go to the bathroom." We leave, we get in the car, we get literally like halfway. I think she has a point on the road where she's like, all right, we're far enough away that this is an inconvenient time for me to ask. And she'll be like, I need to go to the bath. I need to go potty. I need to go poop. That's the big one. I need to go poop. And you're like, because she won't poop at like the gas station or like wherever.
Who
So we're
would?
going
Who
back
who
home, right?
wants to?
Exactly. So we're going back home. So she knows like if I get far enough away, like I can maximize my time.
Yep.
It's wild how much they're thinking like 4 steps
Yeah.
ahead of you, and you as a parent, you're like, no, I'm ahead of you. But no, they've come up with a
Yep.
new tactic. It's wild.
Every time.
Well, this is kind of one example of something we've talked about briefly as we've been planning kind of this show of being a guy who doesn't necessarily have those described problems that they make a documentary about, or someone's big recovery reveal or whatever.
Hmm.
Just kind of everyday guy problems where being able to chat with one another like this, laugh about the stories, use the examples of each other to get through things. That is such an important function of being a guy and being a man. And I just want to, reach out to you and say, thank you for reaching out and having the conversation before coming on this about, I don't feel like I actually have problems worth making a podcast about or bringing up.
Hmm.
Um, that's a very common feeling I think a lot of men have, is like, my problems aren't that big. And we
Right.
kind of downplay problems. Um, when I say that, maybe speak a little bit about what that means to you, and how being a man, have problems, but you don't know how to bring them up and say that they're actually problems.
Right. Yeah, I think, what really, has kind of continued to connect me with your podcast is there was one about sobriety, and then, Reid, you kind of talked about your journey, and I I've looked back on myself, and Ed, we talked a little bit, but I have, I quit drinking partway through my wife's pregnancy, and I hear a lot of these podcasts talking about sobriety and stuff, and it's been, I don't know, that was in November that I quit, and I've had a few drinks here and there, kind of to understand my relationship with alcohol, to like, I understand like that's a privilege. Not everyone can be like, yep, I'm gonna have one drink to see what that's like. Then, there's plenty of people where that leads to something else. And that's where, you know, to your point, Ed, it's like, well, I don't really have that big of a problem. Like, looking back on life, I kind of chalk some things up to like, oh, that was college. I got, into some trouble there. Or like, oh, that was post college. I worked really hard, so I played hard. And now, I'm like, gosh, is this all worth it? Like, time is fleeting. It's so fast. Like, our daughter was born and now she's almost 7 months old. And I'm like, I just want to soak up, enjoy every bit of that. And that's ultimately why I decided to stop drinking, is just, I wanted to be present all the time. And like, you're gonna have to phone it in some days because you were up 5 times in the night and you're tired and you got to walk the dogs and
Right.
take care of the kid. But like, I don't want to do that hungover or like groggy. Like, I still want to bring my best self there. And I think like I've been kind of grappling with that a lot as I've been trying to understand like, I don't really have this like huge problem. Like, they're gonna make a movie out of it, and because he turned his life around, but like also it's not easy. Our society is so focused on drinking, whether it's, I mean, you go to the zoo and they sell beer.
Right.
Which I,
Right. Yeah.
and no knock to people who like that's as they're like hanging out with their kids, bringing them around. But I'm also like, it's so hard to avoid at times. And especially as I'm just like trying to enjoy things, like there's plenty of times where I'd be like, yeah, I'll have a beer on a Saturday afternoon and go watch the elephants, give each other, you know, throw stuff at each other, whatever.
Right. Right. Yeah, I remember when I first got sober and I went to one of my first AA meetings. I don't remember exactly because things were so foggy and groggy when you get
Yeah.
into that, when you quit something like that. But I remember sitting in some of those meetings and listening to some of the stories from the old timers and hearing
Yep.
their trauma and their rock bottoms. And I remember thinking like, holy shit, I'm not near that bad. Like I didn't have that. I didn't have that. And it took me a while to understand that doesn't matter. It doesn't make
Hmm.
my issues and my problems and the reasons why I got sober, the reasons why I drank, any less impactful. Right.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of that comes with, like you're in a situation where, you're staying at home dad, you have responsibility to that. You're starting a
Hmm.
new business, you have responsibility to that. And then there's pressures of, as men, we're taught if you're not earning and you're not contributing
Yep.
in these certain ways, you're not a man. You're less of a man for that or
Hmm.
whatever. And so there's anxiety and there's emotion that goes with that and how we navigate those things, right? When you take on
Yep.
all these newness in your life. And, you know, that's a perfectly great reason to quit drinking because you want to be more present for your daughter. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, you weren't, maybe, passed out drunk puking on yourself, problematic drinker, right?
Right.
But to have the wherewithal and the cognizance to say, I want to be more present for this, for my wife
Yep.
and for my new role as a dad, and to be that, like, that's incredible, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
And with all the newness that comes with that and managing that, along with the pressures of, like you say, it's everywhere when you go out with your buddies and you're like that,
Hmm.
whatever it is, to be able to to say, you know what, that's I'm good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm all right. You guys can do it. That's great. And that's the thing. Like I think a lot of people, we talked about that in our last episode, is people, you know, um, being able to say, like just because I can't do it doesn't mean you can't. You
Right.
know what I mean? And I'm not judging you for anything. And that's the thing. Like,
Right.
do you? And that's kind of like what we're about and what we
Hmm.
want to get out there. You know what I mean? But there are pressures and there are things that, as men, as seemingly minuscule as they are,
Yeah.
there's still issues and they still bring anxiety and they still bring stuff for us. So we need
Yeah.
to talk about those things with each other.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I think that's a great thing, dude, to be able to
Yeah.
recognize that.
I appreciate it. Yeah. It's been a journey, and as I'm like, for a while, it was like, well, I need to take a break and just kind of figure out my relationship with alcohol. And now I'm kind of like, if there's an anniversary or like a big birthday, like my mother-in-law turned 70 and like we had some champagne, like I realized that most people, or people who are kind of struggling with it, might not be able to do this. But I had a glass of champagne. I was like, okay, that's fine. So, but then I wanted, it's funny, but again, you don't have a lot of time, but like I wanted to get up really early the next day and go try for some smallmouth bass. And it's like, if I have 3 or 4 drinks, like probably not going to do it. Like,
Right.
and
Yeah.
that's just kind of like, that's my own thing. Like I wanted to go fishing. And if I didn't go, like that's my own problem. But it's like, what potential do you want to live your life to? And like, what are you okay with? I actually was watching this John Mayer talk about his sobriety, and he's like, I was partying, and like, 40% of my time was partying, the other 60% was music and touring and stuff. He's like, came to this point, he's like, how much of my potential do I really want to utilize? If I'm fine with 40, 60, that's great, but I'd like to be at 100. And I think he said the next year he was doing the John Mayer trio, the Grateful Dead
Right.
tour as well. He was doing 2 tours, and he's like, I couldn't believe it. It was just like absolutely amazing as he was not drinking and what he could achieve. And that, as like you said, growing a business, being a dad, a husband, a son, and all that, like I just want to be able to show up as best I can.
Good. That's good stuff.
Yeah. And then I had one other thought, Reid, as you were talking about kind of the old timers, and you're like, oh gosh, mine, I wasn't that bad. My buddy said to me a while back, as we were, talking about having a newborn child, it's like, it doesn't matter if you drowned in a foot of water or 1,000 feet of water, like you're still struggling.
Right.
And I thought that really hit me hard. And I was like, yeah, that's right. Like it doesn't need to be the severe, like rock bottom. Like it can be tough, and you need to kind of like self reflect and understand that and acknowledge it. And I think that's so crucial as we kind of move throughout our lives and kind of overcome these challenges.
Right. And be able to get the help. And I think that's another thing too, is that there's a lot of men who maybe kind of struggle with this stuff, and
Hmm.
maybe one, they don't recognize that they need a group or some buddies to bounce ideas off of. And two, if
Yeah.
they do understand that they need it, how do I go about getting that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if there are a lot of guys I think that struggle with everyday stuff, and
Yeah.
managing that, but if they mention it to a buddy, they're afraid of what might come back on. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you
Yeah.
big sissy, whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
there's that stigma that if you can't just pull up and manage your own life, you're not going to be. But there's fulfillment in a
Yeah.
community, that you can rely on and get and get that help and get that need.
Yep.
And I think, and I think that's, that mentorship and that kind of relational, um, you know, that kind of a community is huge,
Yeah.
it helps you reach your potential, right? And it's that idea of, if I'm not reaching out and getting that kind of help from my community, I am missing out on what my potential is, and being the
Yeah.
best I can show up and be. So yeah, that's good stuff. That's good stuff.
Yeah. And really, like you're always going to be working on that. There's always going to be new things in life that you're working on. And I think for so long, I'm like, oh, if I can just overcome this hurdle, like, smooth sailing. And it's like, buddy,
Yeah.
you're kidding yourself. Like, but in a way too, it's like overcoming all that will help all these other parts of your life and like really allow you to kind of work through other things and like help others work through their things as
Right.
well.
For sure. I think, you mentioned there that you were able to talk with a buddy and just, have a conversation about why it is that you're doing what you're doing and get that feedback of, you know, it can be a foot of water, it can be 1,000 feet of water.
Yeah.
Just being able to have those sounding boards in your life and building that around you is an important skill that I think as guys we struggle to do. It's
Hmm.
I think one of the things that we love about our guys fishing weekend that we do every year is a chance for us to get together and have slightly deeper conversations on the water about these
Hmm.
things, or you know be a listener one year when you have the ability to give a little bit more attention, or be a little bit more of a taker and someone who to be might need a little lifting up by your friends. I think it's important to create those communities in your life,
Yep.
whether it is through a group like Guys Fishing Weekend, like we're creating, or just on your own with friends, to have those people in your life that you can go to and just you know have a sounding board of this is
Yeah.
what's going on. It might be a total problem of privilege, but that doesn't make it any less of a problem.
Right. Yeah. And I think, as I sit here in our South Minneapolis home, you know, talking about fishing and stuff, that does happen. You're like, man, the windshield on your Toyota 4Runner cracked. Oh, bummer, Grant. Like, and it's
Right.
just another thing on the pile of things that are broken on my list of to dos, and it's like, oh, it's a privilege, but like, it's still not. It's not like my favorite thing to do
Right.
is
Right.
go fix all
Right.
the problems that are breaking with this house and stuff. Like, it wears on you sometimes.
Well, and just I mean,
Absolutely.
that's a small thing that like a simple Google search theoretically could find a person to repair a windshield. But like
Yeah.
going back to your dad with his handyman magazines, and like, you know, if you don't know somebody or know how to do something, like they are bigger problems. And then how do you figure out a way to like ask for help about that?
Hmm.
And so building that community around you where you can go to somebody and be like, hey, do you know a
Yeah.
windshield guy? Hey, do you know somebody who can change your brakes?
Yep.
Hey, do you know how to you know fix this plumbing issue I have? Like,
Hmm.
that's those are problems that we as men come across, and they are things that are challenges that we have to work
Hmm.
towards you know addressing. And so I
Yeah.
think it's they to downsize them and belittle them as like not issues
Yeah.
is a disservice to yourself.
Totally. And what's funny is, you guys might laugh at this, but I think like social media and Instagram can be like, and it is a great spot to go sometimes, especially for some of those little things. Because what was it? I was in my wood shop and I had a problem with like static electricity. It was so weird. Like, all the sawdust would like cling to this thing, and I'm like feeling crazy after a Google search, and I messaged this other woodworker, and he's like, "Oh, isn't that the worst, man? I'd never talked to the guy in my life." And he was just like empathetic, and he's like, "I understand the pain." And he's like, "This is what I did. This is what helped. Good luck. Message me if you need anything." Like, there's been a lot of different instances like that, whether it's fixing my mountain bike or questions about things. And it seems like 9 times out of 10, someone's super excited to help you out.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. That willingness. And I know for me at least, being a little bit older and I'm always I feel almost like, wow, you want my help? Okay, yeah, sure. You know what I mean? Like there's
Yeah.
that kind of like, oh, cool, somebody's asking for my help, right?
Yeah.
And definitely like when, my kids now that they're older, I'm not at the infant stage anymore, but when they get older and they come to ask you for advice or
Yeah.
anything like that, it's like this. all right, I did something right. You know what I mean? Like
Right?
they, right? They're looking to me for guidance, and you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
there's something too that feels good about doing that and being
Hmm.
willing to help people out. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
Grant, how did you get into fishing, and and what is that? Now that you're like a new dad, how are
Yeah.
you finding time to go fishing? But
Well, I'm still trying to figure that out. So I'm actually an only child. So I've been really close with both my parents, really close with my dad just because he would do all the activities with us. Like even back in high school, and it's like I'm too cool for my parents. My dad would take myself and like a couple buddies to the local ski hill on a Friday night, and we would ski till like the last possible run, and we would all just have the best time. And like all my buddies thought and still think my dad's like the coolest guy ever. And I'm like, you haven't seen him mad. You haven't
right,
seen the
you don't see
disappointed dad.
the
Um,
dark side.
yeah, which is my own fault. But he, I grew up hunting and fishing with him, and ever since I could like, go with him, he's taken me, and it's just been, I've loved the adventure, and I've loved also the evolution of my passion for both hunting and fishing. It is, you kind of, and maybe you guys have gone through this, but like for me a little bit, I was spin fishing. It was like, oh, can we get a limit of walleye tonight? Can we do that? And now, or can we get our limit of pheasants or grouse? Like, or you just are going for this, I don't know, this goal, but now it's slowly starting to evolve, and especially as like I'm trying to get friends involved in hunting and fishing, like experiencing it, enjoying the moments. And I think like my dad has really instilled a lot of that with me, and like the memories we've made together has been super special. um what's funny is I didn't really get into fly fishing till late until later in life here, probably late 20s. And I think a lot of that has just been due to like kind of the evolution of my, enjoying the outdoors. And there's just nothing better than like exploring new streams or trying new areas, and like even just going to the same river, it's different every time. Rocks move,
Right.
a river blowout will change the way you fish that the next time. And I think there's something that's hard about it, but there's also this like problem solving and experiencing the river differently. And like my dad and I will be talking about it, be like, okay, what do we do here? Like we used to fish, right on that bank, but now it's like even wider. Can we start over on this side? And, you know, like I said, that evolution has really been an amazing experience. And it's not always about like landing the fish and taking that photo for Instagram.
Yeah, and that's something that doesn't stop. The
Yeah.
evolution of it, it's funny. I recently hooked up with JJ Nyko, who we had on our trip. He guides down on the San Juan River,
Hmm.
down in southern Colorado and New Mexico, um, and he's young. He's your guys' age, and we
Hmm.
hooked up an 11-mile canyon, which is it's technical fishing. It's you do better on these tiny little 24s and 22s, and
Yeah.
I can't see those to tie them on. But JJ went down on the river while I was still getting rigged up. I mean, I'm just a little slower pace than he was. Just gung ho, had his stuff already rigged up, went down there, and I swear to God, he changed flies probably a half a dozen times in the first 30 minutes of fishing until he hooked up a fish. Like he is that
Hmm.
quick and that hardcore, and he was just like fishing, and he was like just hooking fish, and he was just at such a different place. He's a guide, and so he's quicker at stuff, and he's good at
Yeah.
that stuff, and we only had a few hours, and he wanted to fish for, you know what I mean? And I would be standing there talking to him. He's like, dude, you gonna jump in? I'm like, I'm all right, bro. I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm enjoying talking with you. You know what I mean? It was just,
Hmm.
and it's funny the evolution of it. And,
Yeah.
like there was a time when I was way more hardcore and harder fisherman
Yeah.
than that. And now, so you evolve, and you take stuff
Yeah.
in, and there's more to it than just, catching the fish, or,
Yeah.
numbers of fish, getting your limit,
Yeah.
so it's kind of cool to be a part of that and watch that grow. But it's also fun to kind of be with fishermen who are in a different place too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's kind of fun to be a part of that too. So that was it was kind of funny from my vantage point. I was just like cracking up to myself a couple times.
Yeah.
It was good.
Some days I feel that where I'm like, I just need to catch a fish. You've been on the
Right.
river for like 4 hours and you start to evolve into that person. You're like, I just need to catch a fish now. I'm starting to get that itch.
Right? Yeah, for
And you're like,
sure.
easy.
Well, speaking of fishing, we love, obviously, Reid gets up to Minnesota regularly with his family. I'm coming up there, but we would love to get up there and get together and fish one of these times. Let's live plan a trip together, 4-day, 3-night type of trip into your neck of the woods. Where are you taking us? Where are we staying? Where we
Oh
eating?
man.
You take us on a trip.
Oh man, that's tough. I feel like Minneapolis, Minnesota, just have a love for it. I think a lot of people refer to it as flyover country. You're going one coast to the other, but there's a lot of good fishing here. Maybe I shouldn't say that too loud, but we have the driftless region in southern Minnesota, would be southeast Minnesota, and then parts of Wisconsin. I mean, I saw a guy catch he posted on Instagram and it was just a huge brown. It must have been like 24, 25-inch brown. And for us, that's just massive. But like they're out there.
That's a big fish
Yeah.
no matter where. Yeah.
And I would guess he's probably 2.5, 3 hours away, which it's a drive, but to think like that exists within Minneapolis is wild. And then there's been days where I went hunting in the morning or fishing in the morning and went and had like this amazing 4-course meal in the evening downtown and saw a concert. Like that is pretty cool and like one of the big reasons why I love it. But in terms of a place to go, what I'm trying to do this fall is head up to the North Shore. And I think here in September, pink salmon start running out of Lake Superior. I guess they dropped in, years ago, they dropped in salmon, steelhead, and they've been, naturally reproducing. So they run out of the Lake Superior, and I really want to do a cast, a blast, and a mountain bike in one day.
Okay.
Okay.
Triple
So
crown.
Nice.
Triple crown, something I feel like it can be done. I think you'd have to strategically plan that, little trout routes, little onyx, trail
Yeah.
forks and really kind of look and figure that out. And also in the fall, steelhead start coming out. And I guess that's, I've done that once. That's a grind, but that's also a great trip. Definitely an option there. Or just head down to the driftless in Wisconsin and, the driftless angler down in maybe southwest Wisconsin. Um, they have, I know the fly shop has an apartment above and like fun town, got a lot of good places to eat, and I think you could just fish forever within like a 10-mile radius of that. There's so many streams.
That's awesome.
So,
Awesome. I'm
yeah.
in.
We're
I know
in.
I
We
didn't really
talked.
like give you a specific one cuz like I'm even having a hard time deciding like which one of those would I want to do.
Right.
Yeah. We talked with a guy on the last podcast from Flyathlon, and he does an event where he's put together, basically it's trail running, fishing, and craft beer all together. And
Yeah.
that's like the triathlon of it. And now he's incorporated doing, um, catching. I think he was up to like 6 species with 66 miles of running, and I don't
It's
I don't remember
insane.
the whole. It's insane. It's an insane event that he's put together, but it's kind of like that same thing of like your triple crown of like you could
Yeah.
create a personal event of, I got to
Yeah.
catch this fish, I got to
Mhm.
shoot this animal, and I got to ride this trail or
Yeah.
whatever. That'd be a
Yeah.
pretty awesome event.
Yeah, I think I saw I can't remember, was it Blue Line Code? They went pheasant hunting. They got a pheasant, and then he tied a fly and then went and caught a trout with it. So
That's
I'm
pretty
like,
cool.
Awesome.
what, grouse are pretty prominent up in northern Minnesota. I'm like, a lot of grays, and there's some kind of coppery, so maybe you could get something there, and get a grouse,
Right.
tie a fly. I'm not the best fly tire, so you know, we'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be pretty cool too.
Oh, that's
That's
awesome.
awesome. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, we'd definitely be down to do a trip like that, and yeah, we got to make it happen.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even I live not super far from the chain of lakes. Like you can go catch bass and tiger muskie on some of the chain of lakes not far from my house, which, Reid, you were asking earlier, how do I make time? Like
Right.
sometimes it's, you know, taking little girl on like front pack,
Yeah.
casting a little bit is she loves watching it right now. I don't
Right
know how
on.
long that'll last, but like it's just kind of like fitting it in where you can and enjoying those little moments, even if it's like this isn't gonna work. It was 20 minutes and we tried, but hey, I tried it.
Pro dad tip is, as long as you make it that sense of wonder,
Yeah,
they seem to be pretty interested in stuff for a while. My daughter's like super into touching the fish, and like, you know, she gets distracted, and it doesn't last
yeah,
for forever, but it as long as you're super excited about it, it seems like they are cool with hanging around with you to do it.
awesome.
Yeah, last year I was fishing super close to my house. The closest spot I was up on Bear Creek, and this young guy came, and I was fishing in the water levels. That was the last spring, and I was fishing streamers. And he came up to me and asked. He was like, "Hey, how's the fishing?" And I was like, "Oh, it's been great. I just been fishing a little streamer, and and blah blah blah, woolly bugger." And he was like, "Oh, okay, because I only have like an hour and a half. My daughter's down for a nap. I just have like a newborn. I just put her down for a nap, and the wife's at home, but
Yeah,
she works from home, and so I just have like like an hour to fish before I got to get back before she wakes up." And I was like, I was so like. I don't know, like inwardly proud of this dad, this young dad. Let's like
uh-huh,
put his kid down for a nap, grab the rod, jump out, go fish for an hour, get a
yep,
little, reprieve from being that dad. And you could tell he was like, he had a purpose and a mission, but it was like, I was just like, go get him, dude. Yeah. Like,
right,
take my fly. I don't care. Go fish this. It's awesome.
yeah. Oh, that's
But
awesome.
yeah, just getting a piece of action when he can, you know what I mean? Like it was really cool. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, and that as a dad, I've like learned to appreciate. You don't need to go for a full day. I mean, I would love to, but it's like, oh, I got out to the stream for 2 hours, caught maybe one little fish, but it was like
Yep.
just some time to reflect and enjoy and think about things as you're on the stream.
A break, right?
Yeah,
To just take a break from thinking too
yeah,
much. It's good.
yeah.
That's
And it makes
good.
you appreciate even like, as I'm a full-time dad right now, taking care of our daughter every day, like the days they're hard. I mean, you're kind of by yourself some of the times and like at the end of it I'm just so exhausted, but then it's funny when she goes to sleep, I'm looking at photos from like her playing with the dogs that day and I'm like it's hard, but it's still just like the most amazing thing. And I think fishing and just getting some time to yourself allows you to reflect on those hard things and like appreciate them more because things can be hard, but also still really fun.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. How about we wrap this up with the GFW hot seat?
Oh, oh boy. All right.
Welcome to the GFW Hot Seat, where the name of the game is to answer the questions. And the prizes are. Wait, who said we have prizes? There you go.
Oh man. I was hoping for a new fly rod or something, but
No, no
I
prizes.
can only dream.
Yep. Keep those dreams alive, Grant. Keep those
Yeah.
dreams alive.
What is one thing you're currently celebrating in life?
I'm gonna have to say our daughter. That has just been a huge change in our life, but I think also just the relationship with my wife and our family has just been, like I said, it's been a challenge, but it's just been so rewarding and really, I think, has helped us grow a ton, both like in our relationship, but then like in our relationship with our family here, or my family here, excuse me, and my wife's family in Milwaukee. Like it's just really gotten all of us a lot closer, and really just, again, as I keep saying, like enjoying those little moments together. So that's something I'm really appreciative of and really enjoying right now.
It'll keep getting good, dude. It'll
Yeah.
keep getting better. Grant, give us one piece of content, book, movie, TV series you watch, whatever, that you'd recommend to our listeners.
Yeah. Funny enough, and I'm like, maybe you guys should reach out to him. Mark Walensky. He has a fishing school over, it's about an hour from Minneapolis, called Margot and Lola. I don't know if you guys have heard. But he wrote this short little book. It's called Fly Fishing, and the Pathway to Well-Being. And it's a lot about relating fly fishing to kind of mental health. And, you know, as your one example was like, as you're casting, like, being in tune to your body and how you're casting, but then also talking about that as it relates to like understanding yourself more. So it's not a very long book. It's what,
Right.
uh 33 pages, and like kind of teaches you how to fly fish a little bit. And um I think it's great. It's easy read. And yeah, in
Nice.
terms of content though that are just like enjoyment, I really like just kind of mindless TV sometimes. I'm really into Alone, from the, is it History
Yeah,
Channel?
that's a great show.
Right.
Yeah, love that show, especially when the guys are catching like massive lake trout on like a tin can and a hook.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't even, got hundreds of dollars in flies, and these guys are catching just like 8-pound fish on a piece of scrap metal.
Yeah. It
Nice.
makes you feel a little bit lesser of yourself and uh how long you could actually survive in the wild by yourself. It's
My
it's
my wife always says that if I was on that show, the reason I would get taken, they'd have to take me away, is because I'd lose something important. Like I'd lose my hatchet because I'm always like misplacing my keys, or like she'd be like, "You would leave like your fire starter like on the beach somewhere, and it'd get washed away."
Nice.
Yep.
yeah.
Uh,
What is your one of your favorite fishing memories?
Ah, so I grew up boat fishing a lot, and it was with my dad, my uncle, and my cousin, who was probably like 4 or 5 at the time. We were bobber fishing for walleye like in the middle of the summer, up on this lake in northern Minnesota. And my cousin was probably like 4 or 5 at the time, and he was like sleeping under the boat council, and like the bobber would go under every half hour or so, and we were listening to like, country music, playing cards, just enjoying this summer night. And we got a couple fish for a fish fry the next day, but it was just like, I don't know, it was just this amazing experience. And like, sure, our moms were like, "It's 1 a.m. What are you guys doing?" But like, it
right.
was pretty cool that like we just were all out enjoying a fun time together and like making these core memories. Like, it's kind of hard to describe that. I'm sure you guys have plenty of those though.
Absolutely. It's not always about the fish you catch
Right.
that makes a great memory, but the people you're
Yeah.
with and in the environment and what's going on around you. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
I
That's
remember
awesome.
my cousin, was playing with these action figures on the boat seat. And he was like, playing with them, and then be like, "Oh, bobber's down," and then you throw those to the side and go get it. So it was so fun.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. New dad, new venture
Hmm.
in your small business.
Yep.
You're young. What's one piece of advice you wish someone had given your 20-year-old self?
Just do what makes you happy, and don't be afraid to like adapt and change that. I think a lot of times, like, we're growing up, but it's like, I'm not saying don't go to school, but it's like, go to school, go to college,
Yeah.
get a job, do this. I think I look back and I'm like, gosh, I kind of wish I would have taken a year off and gone, been a ski bum. Like, it's amazing how much life changes in a year, both good and bad. Like, you might go be a ski bum in Colorado for a season, and you might have $0 to your name, but then you might go get an amazing sales job or something. And like a year later, you're like, oh, I got a house and whatever. Like, the good and the bad is life changes really fast. So like do what you enjoy and like just keep at it and make sure, you got a place to stay, eat, and, some financial stability, and you're going to be all right.
Nice. That's good stuff. Yeah. My ski bum turned into a couple of years, but that's okay. Um, it's all good. I
No,
turned
I
out
mean,
okay.
Yeah.
right? It's one of
That's
those
great.
things where it's
That's
like,
great advice. Yeah.
if it
Yeah.
doesn't, it doesn't work out that first year, like, you just got to know when to like maybe throw in the towel a little bit and like shift that a bit.
Right, right. Yeah, no, I
So,
have, I just dropped my son off at college and that was a big part of it. Like, I don't think it was, I don't think it's like it used to be. There's so many different options now. College
mhm,
doesn't necessarily have to, it's not a have to
right,
anymore. And so if you're not doing it for the right reasons or the specific thing that you're looking for, it could be a giant waste of money.
right.
So yeah, so there's just so many more options and it's different now and navigating that. That's great advice for
Mhm.
people to, that's good.
Yeah, and especially as like technology changes, like you could be going to school for something that might be completely different in a couple of years, 10 years or
Right.
something. And um it's just about adapting, and I think again doing something you really enjoy and you'll figure it out.
Yep. Good.
That's awesome. What is your definition of community?
Community for me is a place where I can go and be myself and feel comfortable. I've had, you know, multiple different jobs in the corporate world, and I feel like there were times where I didn't feel like I could show up as my like funny, sarcastic self at times, and not. I just think it like distracted sometimes from like the job we were trying to get done. It wasn't necessarily a super bad thing, but like having a place where you can be yourself and like talk to other people and like relate is so huge. Like I mentioned, on Instagram, like I message people that I've never met and like have questions about like stuff that I'm doing in my day life. And they're super supportive, and just having someone who like is willing to have that conversation is super helpful. And the other thing is, and I don't want to sound like you need validation, but like community is also a place where, you know, people will just unprompted, say, "Hey, I really like, what you're doing there. That looks tough." And like, I see like you might be struggling, but, I'm sure you're getting close. Or just, words of encouragement, words of validation, I think go so far. Um, Especially when you feel like you're doing something you enjoy.
I think that a big part of community is that idea of measuring stick, and Ed brought that to kind of like my conscience, where you listen and you hear other people and they validate you, and you know what I mean, so you get that kind of, it's like a measuring stick for, oh, okay,
Yeah.
I'm doing okay, you know what I mean, or oh
Yeah.
wait, I need a little bit more help here, or whatever it might be. That's really good. I love that.
So this last segment is what we call the conversation between guests. And so we have a question from a prior guest that they want to ask you. And this week it comes from Andrew Todd at Flyathlon. His question to you is, what can you do to ensure that the fish and fisheries that you love will still be around in 50 years?
Mm, that's a good question.
That is a good question. It's a tough
For
one. That's
me,
not an easy question.
Yeah, this is probably one of the harder
Yeah. You
guest
got
to guest questions.
oh man, now I'm like rethinking the question I want to ask the next person. For me, I think it's, and I need to do do as I say, not as I do, but I really need to do a better job of working with the local, Trout Unlimited chapters, Pheasants Forever chapters. I think any participation, even if it's just volunteering to set up for a banquet, or, you know, I don't want to say throw money at the problem, but sometimes it is donating some money for, um, you know, habitat, or I try and donate products for some of these organizations whenever I can, and I think that can go a long way. But also, I know a lot of times, like just for mountain biking, a lot of times they're like, yeah, money's great, but like we just need like 2 hours of your time to go clean the trail or clean the fishery. Trying to make an hour, a couple hours every month or every quarter to help out some of these organizations is critical. Like, they can't do it all themselves. It really takes everyone, and it takes, making sure when you're out on the stream, you're, cutting off tippet and it's falling in your bag, not in the stream, and like, leave no trace sort of
Right.
aspect. It really is all those components across each of them.
Well, you handled the pop quiz quite well, because I was very
Good
nervous
answer.
for the question for whoever
Yeah.
whoever had to answer it. I was like, oh boy, hopefully this person's thought about it. So you
Yeah, Andrew was our most scientific kind of dude that we've had on the show. So yeah, you handled that well. You did well, my
you
Thank
guy.
did.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Uh,
Yeah.
what is your question for our next guest?
Oh man, I
Don't
feel like,
rethink it. Don't
Don't
rethink it.
rethink it. Just go
No,
for
you're
it.
good.
where would you want your next fishing trip to be, but it has to be outside the US?
Okay.
Ooh,
So,
okay, good.
Yeah.
and I don't personally know where I want to go myself, but it's like this dilemma of like, I see people trying to hit the Grand Slam, in the Caribbean, and like they're fishing flats. Or do you go, I just saw this, like, in Iceland or New Zealand, like there are some amazing places you can experience that have just amazing fisheries as well. And like I
Nice.
said, I don't know where that is, but where I would want to go, but like, I think maybe somewhere in Europe could be pretty cool.
Right.
Experience
Yeah,
that
yeah.
For sure.
culture.
Yeah, we saw a trip in Mongolia that would be pretty cool to go after. So
Yeah.
there's you're like you said, there's a lot of wild places to go. Hopefully we can
Hmm.
hit a lot of them up one of these days. So it'd be
Yeah.
interesting to hear what the next person has to
Next.
say.
That's right.
Have you guys
That's a good
ever,
question.
thanks. Have you guys ever fished much saltwater?
No.
No.
It is funny because I grew up in South Florida,
Yeah.
but I didn't start fishing until I came to Colorado.
Okay.
Yeah. So 30 years ago, but
Yeah.
I've done a little bit of saltwater, but it's nothing with the fly. Done
Yeah.
some deep sea fishing, but that
Yeah.
in some ways
You know
doesn't
what's,
necessarily count.
you think of fly fishing, and sometimes you're like, that's a lot of gear. Fly fishing in saltwater, and I don't do a lot of it, just on vacation sometimes. You don't need much. You need a rod, like four, pliers, nippers, and a couple flies, and that's it. Because
right.
you just wouldn't, my in-laws have a place down in Florida, and you just walk the beach, and sometimes you'll see fish just cruising the shore, and you might get a little catfish or a permit or something like that. Like, it's one of those things where it's kind of taught me to always carry a fly rod and some flies for the region that I'm going, and it doesn't always work out, but sometimes you're like, oh wow, there's good fishing here. You just got to try it.
Where in Florida do your folks have a place, or your grandparents?
It's my in-laws that have a place there in Fort Myers.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah,
Yeah,
my cousin has a place down there.
yeah,
And yeah, so I think I might be heading down there at the end of next month.
yeah.
So,
You'll have to let
and
me
that's
know.
what I
I
want to
got,
do because like the last time we were there, I was there with my family. We didn't have rods or anything, but there was just like schools of fish swimming right by on
yeah,
right off the beach, and like you can just fish in the surf.
yep, yep. Surf fishing. It's funny because then if you're gonna go spinning gear, you need like, a couple rods, a minnow bucket, an
Right.
aerator. Like, they have these wagons full of gear, which is funny because, like, I'd think it'd be easier than that, but no, fly
Right.
rod. You might not catch everything, but
Right.
yeah,
You don't have all that crap you're hauling around. So
Maybe
right.
nice.
maybe it's just wherever you fish, you just collect a bunch of gear to make you better in that specific area.
Yes, the answer is more gear.
More
Yes.
gear, wherever apparently.
I
Yeah.
need a bigger rod. My trout rod's not going to do the number. I need,
Yeah.
an 8 weight, a 9 weight.
Oh yeah.
Good. Well, this has been a great conversation, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Tell our listeners, Grant, where we can find you. I need some help definitely with my fly tying. Like my desk, I turn into a fly tying table and I have stuff everywhere. So
Yep.
I need to get one of those little fly tying caddies you sell. But where can we find you? What's the best way to get in touch with our listeners to get in touch with you?
So I'm on Instagram. It's temperance_penn, PENN. But then I have a full store website, temperance, the word, and temperancepenn.com.
Okay.
Perfect. We'll link all that in the show notes and make sure people can find you through our website. And
Awesome.
it's been awesome, man. We really appreciate you hopping on and being
Yeah.
open and candid about some of the things that you're dealing with. And thank you.
Yeah. Again, I appreciate you guys inviting me on, and it's been a great conversation.
Absolutely. Can't wait to get out to Minnesota and hook up, dude, and do some fishing.
Yep.
We absolutely
Definitely.
will.
We got options.
All right. Good. Thanks, Grant.
All right, man.
We'll see you.
Take it easy.
I am sold on fishing up in Minnesota.
Absolutely. We got some great advice, some great stuff from Grant. And here's the thing, Eddie, that I really enjoyed about that conversation. I'll tell you. We kind of went down the dad rabbit hole and talked a lot about being fathers. And to see Grant at, just starting out with his family, being willing to talk about those things and kind of put his vulnerability out there was refreshing. It was really awesome. I enjoyed that part of it a lot.
Yeah. Just the everyday man's problems that I think we all kind of push to the side and never really talk about and say, oh, they're not that big of a deal. I think, they're things that we all need to talk about and laugh about and hear how other guys manage to get through those silly little things that, do wear on us and bring us down and sap our willpower and all the other things that happen. So, it's always good to talk to other people that have been in that situation or are in that situation and just kind of laugh off the things that kids do to make you fucking crazy. Not speaking from experience.
Oh yes, indeed. I think there's a lot to love about Grant. I mean, that conversation was fun. It was funny. It was refreshing. All those things, and to see that, he's kind of dived into this business of his and doing the woodworking and doing something he loves and getting that support from his wife as they start a new family, and him being a stay-at-home dad and kind of running his business and doing something he loves. Being able to realize the dead endness of his career, kind of, right? And that was so unfulfilling for him. And so now he's finding fulfillment in the things that he's doing and the ways that he's going about it. I just think are like massive kudos to Grant Powell and
For sure.
his youth to be able to do those things now is really kind of inspiring. It's great. And so, yeah, that was an awesome conversation. I loved that.
Yeah, no, he's got some great pieces of equipment to check out, from fly tying table storage to magnetic gear hooks for the side of your car. It's awesome. Definitely
Good
worth
stuff.
checking out some of his stuff.
Dude, I hope you can hook up with him. I hope when you're up there
Yeah.
soon that you guys can get together and go.
Me too. I think it'd be fun to go be fishing dads at the same time. So
Right? Yeah. The quest for fishing while dadding. Yeah, that's good stuff right there. That'd be cool.
Yep. So was another awesome conversation.
Absolutely, brother. Good work.
Love you, man.
Love you too. Talk soon.
See ya.
That's all for today's episode. Thanks for listening. Make sure to visit our website, guysfishingweekend.com, to check out the GFW merch, sign up for our newsletter, and learn how to get involved with the community. We appreciate you spending even a little bit of your week with us and are glad to have you along on the journey. Stay legendary and happy fishing.